Hi, and welcome to Across the Desk. This week, we discussed more bills going through the Oklahoma legislature, and this time, we discussed only bills going in by one Shane Jett, which really shows just how big of a glass jaw he has when you read through these bills. So, Shane Jett. I know I talked about him last week, but the guy's got a lot of bills out there, and they're really crazy. I mean, this guy is really a radical conservative extremist to the max. He's got a bunch of bills, and some of them are really out there. Today, I only want to concentrate on some of the ones he has for education. Now, this isn't all the bills he has for education. It's only got a couple or a few of them. But this ought to tell you something. This ought to tell you something of the mindset of where conservatives are today. Because what this is are a bunch of bills attacking public education, attacking school teachers, public teachers, and really designed to keep them from wanting to teach, make it harder for them to teach. That's what this does. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make public education so bad by hobbling it with unfunded mandates. They have a whole bunch of mandates, and they're going to have to be paid for. They're not funded in any of these mechanisms he has, because see, it's going to drain their funds. We're going to drain the funds from public schools this way, and then we can take the other funds and give it to private schools wherever we can so that we can eviscerate public education, because Shane Jett really just doesn't like it. He sees it as indoctrination. And he doesn't really get that 87% of our school-aged kids have to rely on public education because there's really not enough seats in private schools for every kid. There just isn't. It's not going to happen. And he knows this. He's just hoping that everybody else is too dumb or too slow enough to figure it out. So we start off with Senate Bill 803. Senate Bill 803. Basically what it does is it allows the ability to fire teachers for divisive concepts. Now what are these divisive concepts? Well, they're anything that would make the child of a conservative or a conservative themselves uncomfortable. See, so if any concept makes a conservative fragile and uncomfortable, you can't teach it. Now, what is that? Well, it's pretty wide open, isn't it? It doesn't really say. It's very vague. Now, vagueness. That's another conservative value. They love to be vague with things. Like the word woke, for instance. It used to mean something back in the civil rights era about people that were enlightened or aware of systemic race issues in the United States. That's what it was. You were woke if you were aware of those things. Now, Republicans, conservatives, have repurposed the word to mean just about anything they don't like. Zucchini boats? Republicans don't like zucchini boats? That's just a bunch of liberal, hippie, woke, plant-based diet BS. Somebody needs to have an investigation into these zucchini farms who are given their liberal indoctrination and wokeness when it comes to these zucchini boats and the plant-based hippie liberal diet. Can't have it. It's wokeness. See how that works? Very vague. Used woke so vague that now we're going after farmers that grow zucchinis. And that's really as ridiculous as Shane Jett gets in a lot of these bills. See, because really, what it comes down to is Shane Jett has a glass jaw. He does. He likes to be the punisher. I'm going to punish. I can deal some damage. But what Shane Jett can't do is take a punch. And in a lot of these bills you see it. You see where he hobbles the opposition from being able to do anything to fight these bills, or if they get into law, be able to fight them at all. Be able to give their side, be able to do anything. Because see again, Shane Jett can't take a punch. He's got a glass jaw. Just like this next bill I'm going to describe, Senate Bill 928. This is an anti-First Amendment law. It's so anti-First Amendment because it really stops public school teachers from being able to assemble, being able to gather with like-minded people. Because that's what it does. It outlaws unions, for one thing. It outlaws unions. It says we will give no recognition to any associations or assembly with any kind of like minds when it comes to teachers. So if teachers say, hey man, I got an issue, we need to go to the Capitol to protest this or something, and if you gathered with all your teacher friends, let's say you gathered 5,000 up, I got a list, people signed up, this is the issues we're worried about. Well, Shane Jett says, hey, you know what? We don't even have to recognize them with this law. If this bill becomes law, we have to recognize them. See, that way Shane Jett doesn't have to take a punch from a whole bunch of people. Because that's how it works. If anybody reads Ben Franklin's autobiography, he's in there. One of the things he champions is his dream of the American government system. He talks about, hey, you know, if you come to me as an individual with an issue, I'm probably not going to give you a whole lot of weight. But if you come to me with 5,000 signatures on an issue, I might listen to that. This is exactly the opposite of what Shane Jett wants to do. Shane Jett wants to quiet opposition. Because again, he got a glass jaw. He doesn't want to take a punch. He wants to be able to deal them, just not take them. This is lesson 1 of conservative cowardice all over again. The likes to dish it, too cowardly to take it. Absolutely. Because this outlaws organizing. It outlaws basic tenets of the First Amendment. This is so anti-constitutional, it's not even funny. So anyway, going on, because really I only got so much time to do this, and he's got a lot of stuff that attacks public education, a lot that tries to eviscerate it, a lot that tries to take it out, a lot that makes it really hard for anybody to want to teach here. You look at all these core requirements and everything else, and you go, I think I'll go to Kansas. That's exactly what they're going to do. That's exactly what they're going to do with this, because it puts way too much onus on the public school teacher. It's to keep them from teaching in the public school system. It's to make sure that they don't do it. To make sure that we hobble public education so bad, make it look so rough, and put all these unfunded mandates, because it's the deal. All these bills, they have cost involved, and none of them are paid for. So they'll come out of the education budget as stands, which we already know isn't that great to begin with. So this is designed to suck more dollars out of private education, not including the ones Shane Jett wants to send to private schools. So we have this Senate Bill 935 we're going to go to now. It's called the Stop Woke Act. Here we go again. Stop Woke Act. So what is a woke? Like I said, it's anything that makes Shane Jett uncomfortable. Anything. Zucchini boats. Doesn't matter. Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Anything. Yeah, can't have it at school, obviously. Can't sell Ben and Jerry's at school. They're religious. They're religious. They're liberal indoctrinators. Of course they are, because they're liberals and they may be gay. So we can't have that, and it's a marginalized group. So Shane Jett's going to go after them, which is another thing about the glass jaw theory I have, right? Shane Jett's going after LGBTQ people because they make up a small segment of the population. See, here's how it works. Over the summer last year, the Supreme Court made a decision on a ruling saying that Roe versus Wade doesn't apply anymore. Well, it's got a lot of women up in arms. This is a women's issue. And if you look at the statistics, there are more women than men in the United States of America. And if you look even further into the statistics, you notice that those women are more than likely going to be registered Democrat. Well, that's what you get. So that really enthuses a lot of energy on the Democratic side, because there's a lot of people there, like I was saying, being able to assemble a lot of like-minded people. So what do conservatives do? They have a slick plan. We'll go after this very marginalized community of transgenders, go after them, because they make up less than 1% of the population, and what we do is we get the Democratic leaders to get off this fight with women and move over to this smaller marginalized group so that they can take the rest of the 95% of the people in America. Because who are you going to go to? You're going to go to the conservative, because all the Democrats are defending the LGBTQ people, which I'm not saying don't need to be defended, but anytime the leadership takes their eye off the ball, the other big stuff that has a lot of people behind, well, it weakens our position, and then Republicans win, and we still get screwed in the end. So that's basically what you get. SB 935, the Stop Woke Act. Stop Woke Act, which is basically, anything that makes Shane Jett cry. Don't do it. It's going to make him cry. Don't be woke. So that's basically what we have with that one. Going on to Senate Bill 968. This is a religious indoctrination bill. It absolutely is. Basically what he wants to do is put a chaplain in every school. Hey man, I want to have a chaplain in your school to do one thing. Give mental health advice. And what is what's the qualifications for a chaplain? Well, anybody who can get ordained into a ministry, church, or anything else, religious, whatever. Well, I don't know if you know this, but in Oklahoma, it's really easy to be ordained. My nephew, who is 20 years old, is an ordained minister. He absolutely is, and he did it so as to marry his brother last year. My nephews. That's what they did for their wedding. One brother got ordained so he could marry the other one. Guess what? That 20-year-old kid who does welding for a living pretty much, that kid's qualified to counsel your kid now with this bill Shane Jett wants to put through. See? The SB 968 allows chaplains in schools. Now, what's a chaplain? Well, when you look it up, a chaplain is someone who's Protestant, Roman Catholic, or Jewish. It doesn't really cover anything else. So it's kind of like, wait a minute, what about Buddhists? What about Muslims? What about anything else? It really doesn't cover that. And again, it's used very vaguely because conservatives are good about doing that, especially Shane Jett. So when it comes to religious indoctrination of our children, Shane Jett's all about that. See, this is another step of likes to dish it, religious indoctrination, way too cowardly to take it. Hey, that concept makes me feel uncomfortable, can't learn it. So there you go, Shane Jett, glass jaw, all over again. So basically, this thing costs money. Yeah, it costs money. You know what it does? Because they have to hire a chaplain, and that guy's going to cost some money. It is. And he's going to get paid, his church or dominion is going to get paid, and it's all going to come out of our school funds to have a chaplain that is only ordained through the state to be a chaplain, and the qualifications are you pretty much go online, fill out a questionnaire, and pay $20. That's pretty much the qualifications. We'll see how far that bill gets in. The next bill I'm going to talk about is SB 1027. Now, this is a diversity, equity, and inclusion bill, but it's not about equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's anti-diversity, equity, inclusion. It's anti-melting pot. It's anti-everything. It's a social, emotional. So basically, when it comes to diversity, when it comes to inclusion, when it comes to understanding the feelings of others, when it comes to working in a group of people, Shane Jett doesn't like that. Because you see, again, we're talking about the 14th Amendment here. He doesn't believe in 14th Amendment protections. As a matter of fact, he's got a bill, that's not school related, but he has a bill on LGBTQ saying that the LGBT community does not have 14th Amendment protections. It's kind of wild. You go, oh, wow, that is definitely a guy with a glass jaw. Because here he is, wanting to say that, hey, everybody else has 14th Amendment protections and equal rights and equal protections under the law, but LGBTQ people don't. They don't have equal rights and they don't have protection under the law. So see, if they don't have protection under the law or anything else, then basically you can abuse them with impunity. And that's basically what Shane Jett wants to do. He wants to be able to abuse the LGBTQ community without being able to take any repercussions in return. Because again, the guy got hit with a counterpunch, he'd go down due to his glass jaw. So basically we have this SB 1027, anti-diversity, anti-equity, anti-inclusion, anti-melting pot, anti-social, emotional, and definitely anti-14th Amendment protections, which makes sense. I mean, conservatives love to have the upper hand, and if they can do anything like in Jim Inhofe's ad in 2020 saying that, hey, if you're a Democrat, if you're a liberal, you're not an Oklahoma citizen. You're just not, and Jim Inhofe absolutely approves this message. Because see, again, Jim Inhofe doesn't want you to be able to counter. He doesn't want to, just like Shane Jett. So Shane Jett uses that here. It's anti-14th Amendment protections. Because see, only conservatives can have those protections. Because only conservatives are the real Americans. Everybody else isn't. And conservatives have the absolute right to abuse those they disagree with. That's just how that is. Also, SB 1027 goes even further for punishments. See, because if a school is caught teaching diversity, equity, and inclusion, well, parents can go to the district attorney and file charges against the school. Now, these are civil charges, which kind of makes you think, why wouldn't you go to the attorney general? But now you got to go to the DA, file charges against school and teachers, which that really makes teachers want to teach here, right? And so basically what it does is if they're convicted and everything else, what it does is it takes money from that school. See, they get less money out of their budget for those kids. And guess what they'll do with that money? Give it to the private schools that don't need it. exactly what they'll do with it. They'll take that 5% of from these schools that violate his bill and give it to private education, just like he's doing with everything else. If it's not given to private education, then they'll suck it out other ways with getting some preacher in there or making sure you pay for a whole bunch of stuff that you really don't need. And that's basically Shane Jett's education bills in a nutshell. They're all designed to really do one thing: hobble public education so that you can make private education look better, so that private education can outcompete public education. See, that's the whole deal. So this isn't a marketplace of ideas to see which one's better. It's absolutely hobbling one to make the other look better, to make the other more palatable, to make you want to send your kids to a religious school of Shane Jett's choosing. Because again, he is a big government conservative with a glass jaw. This is Across the Desk with Kit Fairchild, and we will see you next week.